There is one thing that the greatest sages have always known. Your brain is not just a tool, but your destiny itself. It shapes your thoughts, determines your actions, and ultimately leads you to success or failure. However, most of us do not fully tap into the potential of our minds. We allow doubts to creep in, limiting beliefs to hold us back, and invisible fears to restrain our progress. But what if I told you that there is a way to overcome these barriers? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems." We are not as weak as we think, nor as limited as we assume. Most obstacles in life do not come from the outside world, but originate from our own thoughts. When we change the way we think, we change our reality. So how can you train your brain to become limitless? How can you overcome every doubt and achieve any goal? In this video, we will explore practical strategies to help you unlock the hidden power of your mind, something that will change your life forever. And if you are ready to embark on this journey, leave a comment saying, "I'm ready," and let's get started. 1. Focus on progress over perfection. Perfection, in theory, sounds like a noble destination. We often tell ourselves that only when everything is perfect can we succeed, can we be recognized. But what is the reality? It is a trap, a sophisticated trap that our minds create, making us procrastinate, hesitate, and even doubt ourselves. We are afraid to start a project because we fear it is not good enough. We hesitate to venture into a new field because we worry we are not skilled enough. And when we face failure, we easily blame ourselves instead of seeing it as a valuable lesson. The Stoic philosophers understood this well. Epictetus once said, "Nothing great is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." The message here is crystal clear. Greatness does not come instantly. Success is a journey, not a destination. If you focus only on perfection from the beginning, you will miss the opportunity to grow, to experiment, and to learn from your own mistakes. Imagine this. You are standing before a new opportunity, a field you have always wanted to pursue. But instead of taking action, you tell yourself that you are not ready, that you need to learn more and prepare more. Day after day, you postpone it simply because you fear you won't do well on the first try. And then one day, you realize the opportunity has passed, leaving only regret. One of the greatest athletes in history, Michael Jordan, once found himself in a similar situation. In high school, he was cut from his basketball team. For someone less determined, that could have been the end. But for Jordan, it was just the beginning. He spent thousands of hours practicing, perfecting every shot, movement, and strategy. In the end, failure did not stop him. It only made him stronger. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times, I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed. Michael Jordan said this, and it is a philosophy worth learning from. Success does not come from avoiding failure, but from knowing how to rise after each fall. If Jordan had waited until he was perfect before stepping onto the court, we might never have known the legend that bears his name. One of the most important principles of Stoic philosophy is controlling what we can and letting go of what we cannot. We cannot control every external factor, nor can we instantly become the best in our field. But we can control our effort, our persistence, and our commitment to daily progress. Remember, every step forward, no matter how small, has value. When you aim to learn a new language, you do not need to be fluent overnight. When you want to improve your fitness, you do not need to have the perfect body within weeks. What matters is that you make progress every day, even if it is just a little. When you accept that progress is more important than perfection, you free yourself from the pressure of unrealistic expectations. You allow yourself to experiment, fail, and learn without being shackled by fear. If perfection is not the key to success, what allows you to keep growing? The answer lies in learning from those who have come before mentorship. A great mentor does not just impart knowledge, they change the way you see yourself. They help you realize the potential you never thought you had. They offer practical advice, helping you avoid unnecessary mistakes. More importantly, they inspire you to continue your journey, even when you feel like giving up. Transforming yourself is not just about achieving success. It is about becoming the best version of yourself. How do you find the right mentor? How do you learn from them effectively? Most importantly, how do you turn what you have learned into motivation to rise? We will explore these questions in the next section. 2. Mentorship and personal transformation. There is a simple yet profound truth. A teacher can completely change our lives, not by providing all the answers, but by asking the right questions, sparking self-awareness, and encouraging us to commit to our own goals. A true teacher not only guides, but also opens new doors of thought, helping us see things we may never have noticed before. Stoic philosophy has long emphasized the role of guidance in personal development. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." This statement highlights an important truth. If we believe we already know enough, we close the door to learning opportunities. However, great teachers help us see the limitations of our own understanding, forcing us to be humble and open to change. They do not merely teach us, but also challenge the limits of our thinking, enabling us to surpass our former selves. Perhaps no one understood the power of mentorship better than Steve Jobs. He was not only a technological genius, but also a living testament to personal transformation through proper guidance. In Apple's early years, Jobs was ambitious but lacked maturity in management. He was fired from the very company he founded, a bitter failure that seemed to mark the end of his career. However, a mentor can appear at the most unexpected times. Ed Catmull, the founder of Pixar, was not only a talented leader, but also the person who helped Jobs understand the value of listening, patience, and true creativity. During his time at Pixar, Jobs learned how to run an organization without micromanaging, how to trust his team, and, most importantly, how to let ideas develop naturally rather than forcing them. This mentorship helped Steve Jobs return to Apple not just as an entrepreneur, but as a true leader. From being ousted from his own company, he made a comeback and led Apple to become one of the greatest technology companies in the world. Without the lessons from mentors like Ed Catmull, Apple as we know it today might not exist. A great mentor is not merely someone who gives advice. They help us see what we have never seen before, challenge old ways of thinking, and push us beyond our comfort zones. They do not make decisions for us, but help us make better ones for ourselves. Stoic philosophy teaches us that while we cannot fully control our fate, we can control how we learn from those around us. It is through the humility to listen and the persistence to apply what we learn that we can transform ourselves from someone bound by fear and doubt into someone without limits. Think back to your own life. Has there ever been someone who said something, asked a question, or simply believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself? That person could have been a teacher in a classroom, a boss, a friend, or even a stranger who left a passing remark. Such moments may be quiet, but they hold the power to change the course of our lives. On the journey of self-improvement, we cannot walk alone. We need teachers and guides not to show us every step, but to awaken within us the ability to find our own path. And sometimes, that teacher is not a specific person, but a book, a philosophy, or even painful yet valuable experiences. If you have not yet found a mentor, perhaps it is time to open your mind, be humble in learning, and be ready to receive the lessons that life has to offer. If you already have a mentor, be grateful, for they are helping you move closer to becoming the best version of yourself. Have you ever met a teacher who changed your life? Share your story in the comments. 3. Overcoming shame and childhood wounds. Have you ever felt like a part of you is imprisoned in the past? Painful memories, wounds, or even shame that you have carried since childhood, like an invisible shadow clinging to you, shaping the way you see yourself and the world. Overcoming these scars is not easy, but if you don't, they become chains that hold you back, preventing you from moving forward on your own journey. Alex grew up in a family where love was a luxury. His father was a strict man, rarely showing affection or tenderness to his children. Whenever Alex made a mistake, he did not receive guidance, only cold reproach or harsh words that made him feel worthless. Over time, young Alex learned to withdraw, constantly afraid of making mistakes, always carrying the feeling that he was never good enough. As he grew older, he thought he had escaped his past, but in reality, the pain still lingered deep inside him, affecting how he treated others and himself. He was easily hurt by criticism, avoided intimacy in relationships, and deep down, a part of him still believed that he was unworthy of love. We cannot change the past. We cannot force others to love us the way we wish they had. But we can choose not to let the past define who we are. Alex realized that no matter how much he blamed his father, no matter how much he resented the past, he was the one who was suffering. It was his own shame and pain that controlled him, not his father. And if he did not learn to forgive and let go, he would forever remain a prisoner of his past. Forgiveness is not easy. It does not mean accepting what happened, nor does it mean denying the pain one has endured. Forgiveness is an act of liberation, freeing others from our judgments, and more importantly, freeing ourselves from the burdens of the past. Alex came to understand that his father, too, was a product of his past. Perhaps his father had also grown up in a harsh environment where love was not expressed naturally. So, Alex decided to call his father not to reclaim what was lost, but to see him with a deeper understanding. Their first conversation was awkward, filled with long silences that carried an ocean of unspoken emotions. But when Alex spoke about his feelings, not with blame, but with sincerity, something miraculous happened. His father, the once cold man, was silent for a long time before sighing and admitting, "I never knew how to be a good father." That simple sentence was enough to break down the invisible wall between them. Alex no longer saw his father as a powerful figure he had to fight against, but simply as a human being, one who had his own wounds and limitations. At that moment, Alex realized that forgiveness was not about whether his father deserved it. It was about whether he himself deserved freedom. He was no longer the wounded child of the past, but a man who could choose how to respond to life. Resentment no longer controlled him, and for the first time in his life, he felt truly at peace. Childhood wounds do not simply disappear, but they can become the force that makes us stronger. Stoicism teaches us that instead of letting the past bind us, we should use it as a lesson for growth. Only when we stop imprisoning ourselves in old stories can we truly write a new chapter for our lives. Alex not only healed his relationship with his father, but more importantly, he healed himself. If you, too, carry wounds from the past, remember this: you have the power to choose how to respond. You cannot change what has happened, but you can decide how to move forward. Don't let past pain control your present life. Because when you truly let go, when you forgive not for others, but for yourself, that is when you become limitless. 4. The power of repetition and visualizing success. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself standing at the top of a skyscraper, the wind gently brushing against your face, and beneath you, the city stretches endlessly to the horizon. You have achieved the goal you've always dreamed of. You can feel the weight of this achievement on your shoulders not as a burden, but as an invisible medal of perseverance and resilience. Everything did not come from luck, but from what you have cultivated every day, your thoughts, your actions, and most importantly, the words you have spoken to yourself. We are not just products of circumstances, but also of the thoughts we nurture daily. Stoic philosophy has long emphasized that thoughts govern actions, and actions ultimately shape destiny. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This is not just a philosophical statement, but a practical guide to training the mind. To change reality, you must first change how you perceive yourself. Neuroscience has proven that the brain is not a fixed machine, but an adaptable organ that changes based on what we repeatedly expose it to. When you repeat a thought or action often enough, neural connections in your brain strengthen, turning those thoughts into beliefs and ultimately into actions. This means that if you continuously affirm positive statements like, "I am good enough," "I am worthy," or "I can do it," your brain will start to believe them. Conversely, if you allow yourself to drown in negative thoughts, you will be trapped in a cycle of doubt and fear. A vivid example of the power of repetition is Muhammad Ali. He was not only a legendary boxer, but also a master of the winning mindset. He once declared, "I am the greatest. I said that before I even knew I was." Ali did not wait until he won to believe in himself. He affirmed it long before success arrived. He frequently visualized himself defeating opponents, lifting championship belts, and feeling the moment of victory even when it was still far away. This was not arrogance, but rather a mental program that made success inevitable. If you pay attention, the most successful people in every field have one thing in common. They have a clear vision of success before it happens. World-class athletes, top entrepreneurs, and even Stoic philosophers use the power of imagination to prepare for challenges. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor and Stoic philosopher, practiced a form of visualization called premeditatio malorum, imagining the difficulties that could arise. However, this was not just to prepare for the worst, but also to build an unshakable spirit in the face of adversity. If you can visualize a negative outcome and remain steadfast, then you can also visualize a positive outcome and trust in it. In reality, visualization is not mere daydreaming. When you imagine achieving a goal, your brain activates the same areas as if you were actually performing the action. This means that when you visualize yourself confidently giving a speech in front of hundreds of people, your brain is practicing for that moment without you physically being on stage. When you visualize career success, you are training your mind to turn that vision into reality. But visualization alone is not enough. It must be combined with consistent action. And to sustain those actions, repetition is key. Imagine you are working out at the gym. Lifting weights on the first day may leave you sore, but if you persist, your muscles will grow. The mind works the same way. When you repeatedly reinforce positive thoughts, you are building a mental muscle that makes you stronger against challenges. Are you telling yourself that you're not good enough, that you will fail? Or are you planting powerful affirmations of success in your mind? No one can fully control their circumstances, but you can control what you repeat in your mind. And that has the power to change your life. Stoicism teaches us that inner control matters more than external circumstances. When you control your thoughts, you can control your actions, and from there, you can control your destiny. Repeat positive affirmations every day. Visualize your success vividly, and most importantly, take action to make it real. Remember this: you are not limited by your circumstances, but by what you believe about yourself. So, believe in something greater and let it guide you on your journey. 5. Developing habits and changing mindsets. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to never be limited by any barriers? They achieve things that others only dare to dream of. They don't stop at failure. They don't get caught up in negative emotions, and they always move forward. What makes the difference between them and the rest of the world? The answer does not lie in innate talent or luck, but in a simple yet powerful factor: habits and mindset. Every small action you take each day contributes to shaping your future. Habits are not just repetitive behaviors, they are the building blocks of your life. If you develop habits of laziness, procrastination, or giving up easily, you are laying a weak foundation for failure. On the other hand, if you cultivate good habits such as perseverance, self-discipline, and continuous learning, you are paving the way for success. Stoic philosophy understands the power of habits and mindset well. Epictetus once said, "Every habit and faculty is confirmed and strengthened by the corresponding actions, that of walking by walking, that of running by running." This is the core principle of change. You become what you repeatedly do every day. If you want to be strong, you must practice strength daily. If you want to develop an infinite mindset, you must practice it every second, every minute. Let's look at a real-life example. Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Group, one of the boldest and most successful entrepreneurs in the world. Branson is not a born genius. He does not possess a superhuman intellect or a perfect starting point. Instead, he relies on one crucial principle: relentless work and maintaining progressive habits every day. Despite building a multi-billion-dollar business empire, Branson still maintains the habit of waking up early, exercising daily, and constantly seeking new opportunities. More importantly, he never views failure as the end. He sees it as part of the learning process. This is evident in how he approaches challenges. Instead of being discouraged by failure, he learns from it, adjusts his strategy, and moves forward. The key here is not in grand gestures, but in persistence with small but consistent habits. This is also the core principle of Stoic philosophy. No success happens overnight. Everything is the result of continuous effort. To achieve any goal, you not only need to change your habits, but also your mindset. Most people live with an invisible limit they impose on themselves. They believe they can only reach a certain level, that they are not good enough, not smart enough, or not lucky enough. But the truth is that limitations exist only in your mind. Stoic philosophy teaches us that what is within our control is our thoughts and actions. Everything else is an illusion. If you truly want to achieve a goal, you need to change how you perceive yourself. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for motivation. Take action even when you're not ready. Ask yourself, are you ready to break free from your old limitations? Are you willing to challenge the beliefs that have held you back for so long? If your answer is yes, then it's time to start building strong habits to support your infinite mindset. Start with simple yet important steps. The first is to eliminate negative habits. Identify the actions that hinder your growth, such as procrastination, laziness, and negative thinking, and gradually replace them with beneficial habits. The second is practice self-discipline. Every day, do one thing that makes you better, even if it's just 1%. A small habit but done consistently will create a big change over time. The third is think like a Stoic. When faced with difficulties, don't react emotionally. Ask, is this really beyond my control? If so, why should I worry? If not, what can I do right now? The fourth is to believe in progress, not perfection. No one becomes extraordinary overnight. You don't have to do everything perfectly right away. You just have to move forward every day. An infinite mindset and strong habits are the foundation, but thinking and preparing alone are not enough. True success only comes when you take action. But how do you act smartly, decisively, and effectively? How do you turn mindset into real results? In the next section, we will explore the rule of action, a principle that will help you overcome fear, break free from procrastination, and turn your goals into reality. 6. The rules of action. Imagine you're sitting in a cafe, dreaming about the life you've always desired. An admirable career, a healthy body, a strong mind. You look out the window and picture yourself in the future, strong, determined, having achieved everything you've longed for. But then you return to reality. The cup of coffee is still full, and the laptop in front of you hasn't written a single word. All you have are drifting thoughts, while action hasn't yet begun. And that's the problem. We can sit all day and draw up perfect plans, but if there's no concrete action, everything will remain on paper. Success is not the result of pure thinking, but the combination of continuous thought and action. This is why Stoic philosophy emphasizes the importance of proactivity. Thinking about goals is necessary, but it's meaningless without practical steps. Every great idea only truly matters when expressed through consistent action. No one can build the life you want for you. No one can accomplish your goals for you. Positive thinking, goal setting, and planning, all of these things matter. But if you don't take real action, they're just fanciful dreams. History doesn't honor those who only sit and dream. It only records those who dare to act. Take Elon Musk, one of the greatest minds of our time. He didn't just sit and think about a future where humans could live on Mars or electric cars would replace gas engines. He got to work on making them happen. From the early days with Zip2 and X.com, later PayPal, Musk proved that he wasn't just a dreamer. He saw opportunities, seized them, and worked tirelessly to turn ideas into reality. When founding Tesla and SpaceX, Musk bet almost his entire fortune and faced skepticism, failure, and even the risk of bankruptcy. But instead of giving up, he kept working, adjusted strategies, found solutions, and acted every day to get closer to his goals. What makes Musk special isn't just that he has great ideas, but because he never stops at ideas. He acts, he experiments, he accepts failure and keeps going. And the result? He has transformed entire industries, automotive, space, and renewable energy, all for one simple reason: he acted when others were only dreaming. Have you ever wondered why some people achieve everything they want while others remain stuck in place? The difference lies not in ability, but in persistence. Acting once is not enough. You can't go to the gym for one day and expect a toned body. You can't read one book and hope to become an expert. Every worthwhile result requires continuous, relentless effort. And here's the biggest challenge: to persist in action even when you don't see immediate results. There will be days when you feel exhausted. There will be days when you doubt yourself. There will be days when you want to give up. But that's when you must remind yourself, Every small step matters. No one sees the immediate result of a seed just planted. But if you water and care for it every day, one day it will bloom. Your actions today may not bring results right away, but if you keep going, they will make a difference. You've learned that unlimited thinking means nothing without action. You've seen great people build wonders not through dreaming, but through persistent action. Now, the question is, what will you do with that knowledge? Look back at your goals. What do you want most in life? Have you really taken action to move closer to it? Or are you still waiting for the perfect moment? The truth is, there is no perfect moment. There is only now. Do something right now. A small action will do. Write out a plan. Send that important email. Start the project you've been postponing. Get up and get to work. Don't let your life be a string of unfulfilled dreams. Act today. And if you have thoughts on this topic, leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you think. 7. Transforming fear and stress. In life, fear and stress are emotions that are inevitable. They arise as a natural response of the body to uncertain situations when we face changes, challenges, or important decisions. They are signals that we are standing before something new or difficult. However, instead of allowing these emotions to control us, we can learn to confront and manage them to maintain calmness and focus on our goals. This not only helps us overcome difficulties, but can also turn challenges into opportunities for growth. The philosophy of Stoicism has long emphasized that emotions are elements we cannot control directly, but we can change how we react to them. A famous quote from the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius points out, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This quote not only reminds us of the power of the mind, but also indicates that mastering thoughts and emotions is the key to overcoming fear and stress. If we can change our perception of a problem, we can change our emotions, thereby achieving peace and the ability to overcome all difficulties in life. Fear and stress may be constant companions throughout each person's life, but instead of letting them dominate, we can learn to use them as tools for self-development. The feeling of fear is not necessarily a sign of weakness or failure. In fact, it indicates that we are facing a new challenge, an opportunity to rise and prove our abilities. We can choose to face our fears, learn from them, and continue moving forward without being hindered by negative emotions. Serena Williams, the legendary tennis player, is an exemplary example of the ability to overcome stress and fear. Throughout her career, Serena has faced countless stressful situations, from crucial matches against strong opponents to relentless pressure from the public and media. However, she has always known how to adjust her mindset, maintain composure, and stay focused on her grand goal. Even in moments that seemed like a failure, Serena always knew how to regain her spirit, rise, and win. With 23 Grand Slam titles, she has not only proven resilience in sports, but has also become a symbol of perseverance and self-mastery. Confronting and overcoming stress not only helps us achieve great goals, but also brings comprehensive spiritual development. When we learn patience and calmness, instead of being swept away by fleeting emotions, We become stronger in every situation. This doesn't mean we won't feel anxious or stressed, but it means we will know how to deal with them effectively, turning them into motivation for personal growth. Stoicism teaches us that everything in life can change, but our attitude and how we respond to them is the determining factor. Learning to control our emotions and not let them dictate our actions is one of the key elements that help individuals achieve success and happiness. Successful people are not those who never face difficulties, but those who know how to face these challenges calmly, rationally, and persistently. We can learn from people like Serena Williams, who have proven that patience, focus, and emotional management are essential elements to achieving great goals. She has faced pressure and stress not only in each match, but also throughout her stormy career, and has turned them into motivation to push herself further. If you want to achieve any goal in life, the first thing you need to do is learn to master your emotions. Don't let fear or stress hold you back. Learn to face them, control them, and use them as tools for self-improvement. When you can control your thoughts and emotions, you will open the door to a limitless life where every goal can become a reality. In this video, we have explored how to apply Stoicism philosophy to train the mind, helping you break through personal limits and achieve any goals you desire. From controlling emotions to building perseverance and determination, Stoicism has paved a clear path for us to grow every day. These principles are not just theoretical, but can be practically applied to daily life, helping you maintain a strong spirit and stay unshaken by challenges. Truly, when you understand and apply them correctly, any goal can be achieved. So, what do you think about these Stoic principles? Have you tried applying them to your life yet? Feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future valuable content. Continue following for more useful tips to help you reach greater goals in life.